This hour has 22 minutes.
Good evening. In a touching display of friendship, Jean Chrétien visited Finance Minister Paul Martin recently, bearing a gift. After showing off the new Made in Canada prize for the media, Mr. Martin went to the nearest military base to really work them in. I understand he was using footwork techniques developed exclusively by Canadian peacekeepers in Somalia.
And the controversy over the seal hunt raised its ugly head again this week when an animal rights group placed full-page ads in Canadian newspapers. The group was drawing attention to an alleged seal penis trade between Canada and China. In light of conclusive evidence that no such trade exists, the International Fund for Animal Welfare now say the ad contained a typographical error. Instead of reading, "How do you get away with exporting seal penises to China?" the ad was supposed to read, "How do you get a bunch of ill-informed, bleeding-heart urban animal lovers to send you a couple of $1 million while exploiting an economically depressed rural region?" No retraction is planned.
The American artist Christo, known for wrapping gigantic items with fabric, has been given the go-ahead to wrap Berlin's historic Reichstag in silver sheeting. In previous years, Christo has wrapped islands in pink polythene and a mountain in Colorado in orange nylon. Not to be outdone, the Canadian government has announced plans to wrap the Parliament buildings in a Hudson's Bay car blanket. Way to go, Canada!
Former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney stuck his head up his hole. Excuse me, that should read out of his hole recently to give a speech and collect yet another honorarium. Afterwards, at a press conference, he seemed to claim that his disastrous term in office had nothing to do with the Conservatives' overwhelming defeat in last November's election.
The Tories' massive defeat had nothing to do with you?
I didn't answer that. I didn't say that.
How do you...
I just say that I wasn't there.
You could have won.
I did what I had. Pardon?
You could have won.
Well, I think that there would have been an interesting campaign.
Boy, the king of denial. Jeez, if he believes that, he must be really hitting the hard stuff. I mean, he must be bathing in it if he believes that the Canadian people would ever vote for him again.
And now it's time to check in with this hour's roving reporter, Mrs. Enid McMillan, with a very special prime ministerial edition of Eye on Seniors.
Boo. Enid McMillan here with This Hour has 22 minutes. There's a big luncheon with himself here, and I brought my own because I couldn't afford it. But I'm after losing my pension check, and I want to find out from himself what happened to it. And am I safe in the new budget and everything? I'm going to ask him now if I get the chance. Sir, with the new budget, will my pension be safe? I know where to get a hairnet, and I know where to get a fish net. And I'm wondering where will I get one of the social safety nets you talk about, because if it's down to Woolworths, I'll go down now and get one, because it's shocking, I tell you, sir. Walking along the sidewalk in these parts. Now, they may clear the sidewalks up in Ottawa, but down here it is a mess. And I know there's many seniors that would be very interested in where would you get a social safety net for walking.
It was a terrible storm in Ottawa. Yes, sir.
But?
Okay, thank you very much.
This is Mrs. Enid. Everyone calls me Mrs. Enid. You can call me Mrs. Enid. For Eye on Seniors, for This Hour has 22 minutes. I'm going to try to get a run downtown now with the crowd of them when they're going. Will you give me a run? That's right now. There he goes. What an ignorant crowd. They wouldn't give me a ride downtown. My, he looked lovely, though, didn't he? In his nice scarf and his lovely coat. I must try to get a taxi, I suppose. Taxi?
Continues, and here with a blow-by-blow is Babe Bennett.
A lot of gals are in the soup these days over fellas who are in the soup about what to say to gals who are in the soup over sexual harassment. Why, fellas say it's gotten so you gotta ring up an attorney every time you think about tossing out a compliment. Why, you fellas ought to wise up and use some of that common sense some of you was born with. Why, a gal is accepting of nice dress, Margaret, but adding apple dumpling or sweet cakes or are you wearing satin panties under that? Now, that's asking for a knuckle sandwich. And I'm just the gal who can give it to you. I'm only kidding. I like men. In fact, I love them. Why, look at all they've accomplished. Why, according to an article in Esquire magazine, the magazine for men, men have a staying power of up to 4 minutes. Why, that's great news if you're boiling an egg. On the other hand, orangutans can keep it up for 15 minutes. Well, what is that ape's number, and do I have to buy him dinner? I know I'm being a little unfair, judging a man's character by his performance in the sack. And I feel bad about that, and I apologize to all you fellas. Because I know, strictly speaking, a fella would never judge a gal on her beauty or her appearance or, say, the size of her hooters. Why, if a fella said to me, sign here, sister, for a job, after giving my hooters the once-over, I'd have to say, sure. But if he tried to hunk those hooters, I'd have to have him fired. I'd have to take over his job. I'd have to hire a bunch of plain, smart, plump girls to run things. Why, there's nothing wrong with plain, smart, plump girls. I like them. Don't mind if I do. Whoops. I'm just kidding. I'm just goofing. I'm just fooling around. Say, is Mario Hemingway here?
Climatologists went way out on a limb this week and boldly predicted that spring would be warmer than winter. They then went on to speculate that fall would probably be colder than summer, and that probably anything would be warmer than living in Toronto.
John Crow, former governor of the Bank of Canada, spent the last 8 days of employment by throwing 7 parties for himself in 3 cities at an expense of $30,000 to the taxpayer. In a related story, Margaret Murphy in accounting marked the end of 27 years with the bank by exchanging some cards and eating some Haagen-Dazs with the girls.
And now, let's have a quick peek at the first Canadian television show to garner a record 17 Gemini Awards. The reality-based CBC hit Information 411.
The call came in at 3 o'clock. The guy had received a letter from Revenue Canada the day before, and he had not been asleep since. He was scared. He hadn't filed his taxes in 2 years. He sounded calm, almost numb, a false bravado. I was worried. I know callers in this kind of condition can go into shock. I know you got a letter, sir. What is your name, please, sir?
Roger.
Okay, Roger. Now, what did the tax people say, Roger?
They want my money.
All right, calm down. You do have receipts, don't you, Roger?
Can't find the shoebox. I can't find the shoebox.
Okay. Everybody has expenses. You have expenses, Roger?
I think so.
That's right. Lots of things are deductible.
Only pretended to know what deductible meant. I thought groceries were deductible.
Sometimes they are. Now, do you have an accountant, Roger?
I don't want to pay tax.
No one wants to pay taxes, but it's part of being Canadian. We have to.
I'm numb. I'm numb. I can't look at the shoebox. I can't look in the shoebox.
Do you have the shoebox there with you now, Roger?
Yes. I found the shoebox.
Okay. Now I want you to stay with me, Roger, and open up that shoebox.
Receipts. There are receipts. T4. Shoe bills. Laundry ticket.
Yes. That's right, honey. Stay with me now. You do have receipts, don't you?
I got receipts.
Don't give up, Roger.
Got receipts.
When Roger found the receipts, I knew he was going to make it. He sounded happy. Obviously, it was the wrong time to tell him that finding your receipts is just the first hurdle in the Revenue Canada obstacle course. As luck would have it, my brother-in-law was a reputable accountant. I gave him Roger's number.
I talked to an accountant, and then I finally filed my tax return. Now I'm waiting to hear back from Revenue Canada.
I don't know much about taxes, but I do know about people. And when they're in trouble, they can always count on Information 411.
The federal government has actually said they will now guarantee employment for young people, provided they give up their rights to social assistance. Was that a liberal government we just elected? I mean, a minute ago, Jean Chrétien was out busily restoring hope to the nation. Now he's after applying the War Measures Act to the unemployment problem. What is he, nuts? I mean, if we're going to start taking people's rights away, we're going to have to take away a few sacred perks in the process, like, say, the 200 MPs we just got rid of. Boy, they don't come cheap. I mean, do you know what the pension is for big fat losers in Canada? John Turner gets 87 grand a year, if that's any indication. And remember Joe Clark, Prime Minister for 5 little minutes and man in charge of national unity? Way to go, Joe. We're nearly bankrupt and we've got a separatist in opposition and you're getting 84 grand a year. Now, hey, I'm not saying that we should take away their rights to be losers. No, no, no. I'm just saying let's take away the salary. Or better yet, put it to a vote. Should we pay $15 million a year to MPs we just fired, or should we ask people to give up their rights for minimum wage? See, I don't think that's a road we want to really wander down. What's next? If you give up your right to a lawyer, you won't get a punch in the head? No, no, no. Go back to the drawing board, boys. With liberals like you, who needs conservatives? You're starting to make Preston Manning look like a humanitarian, for God's sakes.
In Paris this past week, officials announced the passing of an anti-English law. Like they don't have one already. Well, the French, qu'est-ce que je peux dire? I always knew they thought they were better just because they could speak French. Sure, we have no problem with French words like matinee, eau de toilette, and ménage à trois. But I guess the French are afraid, peut-être, that if the Anglos got a foot in the linguistic port, they'd have to knock off being piggy to tourists or having their chienne in the restaurant. Nothing cracks them up like seeing an Anglo trying to figure out those dumb phone cards or bursting into tears trying to guess at the train schedule. Oh, quel fromage! Grow up, you guys. If you worry too much about the Anglo language threat, you're just going to get your lingerie in a twist. Then you'll get all mal au stomac. Then you won't be able to digest your pâté et chocolat. I bet then you'll be enchanté to say oncle to a soupçon of le Pepto-Bismol.
The man responsible for cutting off Frank Sinatra in the middle of his Grammy acceptance speech has since left the Sinatra organization, joined a witness protection program, and was last seen living as a woman in northern Manitoba.
The porcelain world of figure skating was shattered last month, and Tonya Harding may be facing a U.S. grand jury and charges of racketeering. Alan Eagleson, who dominated pro hockey for over 20 years, did appear before a U.S. grand jury and has been charged with racketeering. You know, I didn't know before just exactly what racketeering was, but apparently it's got something to do with skating. And you know, I didn't know that Al Capone and Frank Nitti and those guys ever strapped on skates. Did you, JP?
No, but they iced a lot of people.
Money matters. A lot.
Hi, Gus.
Hello, Marcia.
Gus, you're young.
Yes.
You're handsome.
Yes.
And Gus, you own a castle. You're rich.
I am super rich, Marcia, but you want to know what?
What?
It kills me that more people aren't. It hurts me, and that is why I am here.
Gus, are you saying you're about to unveil the secret that made you what you are today?
Indeedy doody, Marcia. And while we're on the topic, what's a good education cost these days?
Well, a recent survey has put that number at over $80,000.
Well, heck, that's a lot of money to spend on a dead-end job, a high mortgage, and very little else.
I know it's true, Gus. I've seen it, my brother. It's awful. He'll never be free.
I know, baby, I know. But I tell you what you do, kids. You're 18 years old. You say, Dad, school is going to cost you $80,000. You give me $75,000 now. You save yourself $5. I'm out of your hair. You're off the hook. You take that $75,000, Marcia. You invest it in Far East Mutuals. We're talking Pacific Rim here.
Mondo dollars.
26% return minimum. You go down in the basement.
Well, listen to a couple of records.
You come back up when you're 35. You go to the bank. You say, how about you give me a check for
$3.8 million.
You are rich.
That's super rich.
That is. But you know, Marcia, the best part about being rich is you get to go down to the local bar. You check out how the guys from the hockey team are doing. You say, howdy do, guys. You're looking a little heavy around the middle. You walk up, you drop a wad. You say, around for the house. No hell, I'm back in town. I'm buying the bar. I'm free as a bird. I'm rich as a pig.
That is beautiful, Gus. That's beautiful, Gus. And it's that easy, isn't it?
Well, unfortunately, no. Before you do anything, you must buy my instructional video. Now, there is a number on your screen. You send $199.99, and that is your first step to financial security.
And Gus, $199.99 might seem like a lot of money, but it's not when you compare it to $3.8 million.
That is right, Marcia. That is right. This is a lady that's thinking like a lady that's about to be rich.
Oh, thanks for sharing, Gus, and thanks for caring.
Thank you, Marcia. I do it for the people. It's the least I could do.
Beautiful guy.
In science news, researchers have found a way of extending the life of a fly by 30%. Great! Just what we need. More flies living longer lives. What's next? Mosquitoes with multiple personalities? I mean, really? Why don't these white-coated, beaker-loving, Bunsen-burner beacons of progress spend their time and my tax money in more useful ways, like finding a cure for some of the country's really troubling ailments, like mad MP's disease or foot in judge's mouth disease? Now, there's research I'm sure we'd all support.
It's been bitter, frosty, nippy, brutal, freezing. But Frank McMillan is none of these things. Here he is, the world's first test tube weatherman, Frank McMillan.
Well, tonight we were going to give you the forecast for Canada, but you probably already know what it's like out. It's always pretty much the same old Canadian weather, no surprises. What you want is interesting weather. You want interesting, brother, we got interesting. Africa, look at this. 24 temperatures on the go here. We got 21, 44, 37, 28, 14, 17. It's freezing up in the Kalahari. There's a monsoon in Mozambique. It's cloudy in the Congo. Rainy season in Ghana National Park. The heat is overwhelming in Kenya. And where else is there relief but in the snows of Kilimanjaro? Talk about interesting. It's a weatherman's dream, a forecaster's fantasy, a prognosticator's paradise. Back to you.
In Paul Martin's recent federal budget, the scientific community was hit very hard. It is now almost 3 weeks since the budget was brought down. How are these scientists making out? We are now joined by two budget casualties, Dr. Irwin Reeves and Dr. Charles Hobson. Gentlemen, now that you are no longer practicing particle physicists, what are you doing?
Well, we're strippers, Molly.
They call us the doctors of dance.
He goes by Dr. Irwin Cha-Cha Reeves, and I'm Dr. Charles the Snake Hobson.
You've been reduced to taking your clothes off for money?
Yes, we do, but we don't hook Molly.
We're not saying it doesn't exist, but that's where we personally draw the line.
I see. That must have been quite a transition from particle physicist to stripper.
Well, I think I can speak for both of us when I say it was pretty hard at first. Neither of us really had much of a background in male erotic dance.
No, and we're both morning people, Molly. Sometimes one is forced to shake their money maker until 3 or 4 a.m. It's tough.
Forgive me for being forward, but neither one of you seem particularly suited to shake your money maker.
Yes. Well, we've seen this attitude before, Molly. Everything is fine as long as we're letting it all hang out on the table dance.
The minute we open our mouths to talk about particle analysis or atom smashing, you turn right off.
I'm just saying you don't have the standard stripper physique.
Well, I think we're more of a novelty act than anything.
And people like the fact that we don't show up the men at the office parties. The average male office worker actually has a better physique than the average male scientist.
And you're part of the Chippendales backup team.
Yes, we are. We go where Chippendales won't.
Like certain company towns up north.
They just fly us in on bush planes.
I really wouldn't have thought that there'd be much of a call for male strippers in company towns.
Men change in the bush, Molly.
Well, there you have it. The Doctors of Dance. Coming soon to a small community or science fair near you.
3, 4. I'm just doing the Newton dance. 2, 3, 4. I'm just doing the Newton dance. 2, 3, 4. I'm just doing the Newton dance. 2, 3, 4. I'm just
Well, that's the way things look from here this week. For all of us at This Hour Has 22 Minutes, I'm Molly McGuire saying good night.
Good night.